Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. We are very happy this week to be joined by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Missouri, Mike Parson. Governor Parson, welcome back.
Scott, good to be here on the program, and always appreciate what you do.
So my sister's vacationing right now, and I see pictures of her on her trip. I feel like I don't even have to know what she's really doing. I see pictures of you all over the state right now, the same way with the Buy Missouri thing. Right. Fitz's, Shakespeare's, all over. I know there's folks that saw the photographs. Tell us what exactly Buy Missouri is.
You know, Buy Missouri is an exciting program we're doing at the Lieutenant Governor's office, and really what we're trying to do is just fundamentally promote Missouri businesses and Missouri workers for what the work they do, for the jobs they do, for the quality of work they provide, and really trying to make people aware of our Missouri products around the state, which we have thousands of them that sometimes we just don't realize is sitting there in front of us at the grocery store, the hardware stores, or the feed stores. Yeah. And there's just a lot of fantastic businesses out there, and I'm just, you know, from the Lieutenant Governor's perspective, I'm just wanting to promote those businesses. That's what I signed up for when I took this job, is to try to help in whatever means I could. So promote Missouri is easy for me to do because I believe in it so much.
As one of the few Missourians that actually owns newspapers, it's nice when the government's doing something that's not to harass you. 9 times out of 10, that 751 number's on your caller ID. It's not good news.
That's right.
It's one of the few things you can actually go do that actually helps the business owners that create the jobs.
And you know, the great thing about this is, Scott, it's not a government program. This is something me and you can do. This is what we can all do together. And if Missourians start working together, even the employees can start helping out fellow employees at other Missouri businesses by buying their products. And if we can really make people aware of that, I really think it's a huge win-win for the state of Missouri.
You know, sometimes I think we in the Midwest, we're not as bombastic as some folks, maybe out on the East Coast. We're not as arrogant or loud and annoying. I found that sometimes you see a person from, if we're a Missourian and we see somebody from the state of Texas instead of Texas County, they got to be smarter. Or somebody from Washington, D.C. has got to be a lot smarter than somebody from Washington, Missouri. It's an interesting thing to me to have pride in the state. We live in the best state there is.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more. You know, when I did my tour of duties in the United States Army and I come back home, I said, I love this state. This is where I'm going to finish up my life right here. And to be able to go out there now and actually support it and put Missouri as a showcase, and if we can build that pride amongst all Missourians, and really we can do that on our own. Just like me and you are sitting here today, we can start talking about Missouri products that are around this state, that's all around us every day. And if we can get the consumers to be aware of that when they go into the stores, we'll make a difference. We'll make a difference on the economy of our state, our job force in the state, and really put a lot of pride in those individuals that are back there in the back that you normally don't see. They're just working back there every day to make Missouri a better place.
You know, of our friends in Kansas City watching this today on KMBI would have noticed they probably wouldn't be in the spot there with the airport. And I always think it's an interesting thing. Joseph Pulitzer, famous Missourian, he actually started a newspaper right in St. Louis. Actually was a former Republican legislator, people don't know.
Right. And I think the more you make people aware of things that are going on in the state and what's important and how you benefit as individual Missourians, again, it's just a win-win when people understand that. And I really believe Missourians, with their work ethic, will always try to step up to the plate and do the right thing if they know what that is and how we persuade them to get there.
So you've been driving all over this state. You've been on the roads. We had Senator Keogh on 2 weeks ago, Senator Eigel on last week. Obviously, you're on these highways. Is there anything more you can do for the betterment of the state that have a good transportation?
You know what, Scott? Look, we got to quit kicking the can down the road. And the reality of it is we're going to have to do something to infrastructure in this state, including roads, including airports, including our ports and our rail. We've got to do this. If Missouri is to continue to grow and to be competitive in the economic development side of it, we got to do something with our infrastructure in the state. And it's going to cost something. And there's no easy way around that. There's no magic money out here that the state's going to come up with to be able to afford a total overhaul of the entire highway systems. And those are the things we got to look at. You know, when I go around speaking about Buy Missouri, I always talk about transportation, and you're going to have to do something with the skilled workforce, because wherever you go in this state, the employees are out there trying to find skilled workers to go to work. And we got to be able to make sure that we give our young people and the people out there looking for jobs the opportunity to get into those skilled workforce arena.
You're former sheriff, farmer. When I think rural Missouri, I think Governor Mike Parson. Is there a way that you can step forward, not only on transportation, but rural broadband? Issues that folks in rural Missouri need badly. You're the unquestioned leader from rural Missouri.
Right.
Can you push some of those issues this legislative session?
You know what, I think we can, Scott. I really think. I think there is a uniformed effort with rural Missouri, with the urban areas and the people involved in that, to bring broadband to rural Missouri. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see that connection made in the next several years by a combination of different means, but I think you're going to see that. We got to do it. Everybody should have the right that the fundamental thing that we think of a broadband, that we take for granted every day, we that have it, but all of a sudden when you get into rural Missouri and you're isolated and all of a sudden you can't conduct business because you don't have that ability to do that. That's got to change. That's not who we are as Missourians, and I think we'll get it fixed.
I was on the plaza this week in Kansas City having this great steak, and I was thinking how great it was to be able to get there. Yeah, it was outstanding. My point was, though, if you don't have a road to get you from West Butler County to the plaza, you can't go do that.
Yeah, and you know, as we talk by Missouri, you know, you're talking all these businesses in the state of Missouri, over 130,000 businesses in the state. They're all pushing product down the road every day. They're using our transportation systems for that means. And you know, you can only maintain something, anything, I don't care what it is, if you just take the time to think of it, you can only maintain something so long. And then you're going to have to redo it and fix it. So it's a matter of how much money do you want to keep spending on maintenance versus at what point do you really want to fix it.
So let me ask you two quick political questions while you're here.
Yes.
You've been in the parts of the state that a lot of the media is. If you just watch CNN, you think Donald Trump's a reviled, terrible figure. He got more votes than anybody in the history of Missouri has ever given for president.
Yes.
How's he doing in the other parts of the state that maybe don't get attention?
You hear a lot through the media side of it, but let me tell you, Donald Trump is very popular in the state of Missouri. And I don't care where you go, he still has a base. Let me just put it that way. And I think the things that Donald Trump say, the everyday Missourian thinks also. You know, you might not agree with everything he does, but you don't agree with anybody. But the one thing they do is they're looking for change and they're wanting something done. And that's the one thing I think Donald Trump brings hope to the table that, hey, I'm trying to do something. You guys told me to go up here and change the way business is conducted, and I'm trying to do it. You know, and I think really the Congress needs to step up a little bit, and he is the President of the United States, and they need to do their part to help him with an agenda that he believes in and that the majority of the people of the United States believe in.
I saw you down in Springfield greeting the president. That room seemed like it was pretty big on Trump.
You know what? That was a huge opportunity. Anytime you meet the President of the United States, it's a special day. You know, I had, when he was there, he conducted himself very professional. His daughter was there. They were very complimentary of the state of Missouri. Of who we are in this state. So it was a great day for him to come to Missouri, and I think that should be really, Missourians should be happy that the President of the United States comes to our state.
Sure. I'll ask you real quick, there's a special Senate, state Senate election. You know a little bit about the state Senate as you're the presiding officer of it. Yes. Mike Searpoy's running, it's Hillary Shields, and then there was another candidate, Jacob Turk, on the ballot. Have you been there, and how's that race going?
You know what, I have. I was actually up to Representative Searport's district, talking to him, and at a rally that they were having up there. That's an important seat that I think we sure need to try to maintain in the Missouri Senate. Mike's a great candidate on that. I think you got to be careful sometimes when you start getting too many people involved in a race. All of a sudden you can sometimes lose the best candidate that really has a chance to win by actually diluting the race to allow somebody else to win that maybe is not.
So you spoke at the Searport rally in favor of the representative?
I did. I was there, and I spoke at his event, and I wish him well to come to the Missouri Senate.
You know something about winning Senate races. Does he win?
You know what? I believe he does. I believe he does. When I was up there, I had a real good feeling that people were really understood the situation they were in. But the only way he wins if people go out and work. And sometimes in off elections, people can get a little lazy, but if they do that, he's in trouble. But I really believe that people will rally behind him.
Governor Parson, thank you so much for making the time to join us.
Scott, always a pleasure to be here on your show.
We'll be right back. Representative Joe Adams joining the show after this.
In 2008, Republic Services acquired the Bridgeton landfill in a merger. Since then, we've invested $200 million to clean up the site and to maintain environmental compliance. We do that while staffing the facility 24/7. That's because we support permanent solutions that are safe for our neighbors and clean up the environment. We're committed to doing what's right. That's what drives us every day. We're a part of the community, and we are here for the long haul. Republic Services. We'll handle it from here.
My name is Eric Philippi. I'm a veteran, a carpenter, and a father. When Eric Greitens said he was going to change politics as usual, folks like me didn't think the first thing he'd do as governor was take dead aim at our jobs and our families' livelihoods by working to repeal prevailing wage. Call Governor Greitens. Tell him to protect prevailing wage and to protect my family, not destroy it.
Nobody likes power outages, including us. That's why Ameren, Missouri is investing in new equipment and smarter technology to reduce outages and keep pace with future needs. And it's working. We're in the top 25% in the nation for reliability. And on average, our rates are 18% lower than other Midwestern states. Making sure the power's there when you need it. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We're joined by our opinion maker panel now, Representative Shane Roden, Jeff Coe. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be back.
Representative Phil Christofanelli out in St. Charles. Welcome back, sir.
Glad to be here.
Joe Mannies, Missouri. Can we say journalistic icon and not make that sound like it's not,
Well,
like it's
I'm
old or something? Yeah, that's what.
I admit it. I own it.
And Representative Joe Adams, University City. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me
Running
back.
for state senate, correct?
That is correct.
How's campaign going?
Campaign is going great. We made our formal announcement about a month ago, and we're gearing up well.
Let's start with an issue that I bet you're not. I may start with an I told you so. SB 43, a bill. Look, the Republicans run on saying we're going to make it harder to sue. They made it harder to sue on discrimination issues.
That is correct.
And HUD said we're going to take away $500,000 in federal funding.
That is correct. Yeah, it was a problem. There was a couple of problems. The governor knew there was a problem with the bill and didn't let us know about it. Didn't send the letter that the federal government had sent. That's one problem. The other problem is making it harder for Missourians who are facing discrimination in housing. They can't sue through the Missouri courts. In fact, HUD is requiring Missouri tell these people to come to HUD and they'll sue. Before, HUD was referring those to Missouri courts, the Missouri Housing Authority. So, yeah, it's a problem, very serious problem.
Representative, if the governor would have showed that bill to the legislature, I don't think it keeps the bill from passing, does it?
Absolutely not. We're not going to judge what is good public policy based on how many federal funds we can pull down. There's a problem with frivolous lawsuits in the state of Missouri. SB 43 addressed that problem. It was a good bill, and I'd vote for it again today.
But it might not have been bad practice in hindsight, now that it was going to come to light anyway, to have showed you guys that piece of that letter and correspondence in April.
It would have been a little bit nicer to have that information ahead of time. But like my colleague said, I don't think there would be any change in outcome. I think it's one of those issues that we keep seeing, that we have an issue with courts being completely tied up with frivolous lawsuits, and our court systems are just overburdened as it is.
Going forward, though, will you be asking if there's a letter like this next time on a bill the governor's office is pushing?
I think we're all going to have to ask ourselves that a little bit ahead of time. But I think, like you said, good public policy shouldn't be dictated by what the federal government's going to give us money-wise.
I was so glad when you came on this week. You've seen a lot of these things. What did you observe?
Okay, I was there in the Capitol for the debate. I will say this. Several Republican state reps who are lawyers pointed out on the floor during the debate that there was legal problems with this, and they thought certain things needed to be done, changed, just in case. They weren't necessarily aware of this letter, but they were saying there was something. And that was sort of ignored by the rest. But I thought it was rather intriguing that actually the more vigorous arguments against at least that wording of the bill was made by Republicans on the floor of the House. So that may cause some discussion later. It wasn't just Democrats complaining about it. There were some Republicans that
If
said
they
this
had known
wording.
everything that was going to happen from HUD, I think the bill still passes, though. I was in the room myself.
Yeah, but they might have made some changes. They could have made probably some changes that would have then negated all this.
If you amended that bill and it went back in the Senate, it was never coming out
It would
again.
have died. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't,
Yeah.
sometimes the Senate bluffs and uses that against the House. This time, I think it was a real bluff.
Yeah, it probably would have been the end of that one, and we would have really ended any chance of any kind of tort reform at all.
Do you think, Donald, prediction, do you think the Trump administration finds a way around this?
Probably.
What do you think?
Yes.
Probably.
Maybe.
I think the Trump administration does, but if there's not a second Trump administration, then they have to look at actually changing this to keep
Right.
their money. That seems to me to be the move. Let's talk about some more races. Representative, you're making a run for House leadership, right?
I'm going to be throwing my hat into the ring for the assistant floor leader next year, majority floor leader. So
Kevin Austin, big shoes to fill.
it's going to be some big shoes to fill, but I think it's one of those things that when I start looking at who else is potentially going to be our floor leader, I've had an opportunity to talk with both of them, kind of get an idea what they're looking for their right-hand person to help, and I think it's something to help the caucus and get to that point where make the caucus a little better.
Talk about another person that's announced to run, Paul Kurtman. Made it not really a surprise, but he decided to jump in the state auditor race. You kind of saw this coming for a while now, but I think he's got a lot of the temperament that most folks would want in an auditor, right?
I think so. He reminds me a lot of Tom Schweitz. He's that bulldog Marine.
That's fact.
And one of the things a lot of people don't realize is he was actually my representative down in Jefferson County back in 2010, and I saw this young man come out and knock doors in our area and win Jefferson County. And I went, holy cow, this can be done. And seeing that being able to accomplish, he kind of pushed me into the politics realm in 2014. And now it's got to be hard to beat. He's got beautiful little girl that was just born not too long ago, and was a little boy, so it's got to be a tough race.
He has a large following on the right, and I mean that will matter in that primary.
Absolutely. He's captured the hearts and minds of conservative activists across this state. He starts out with an army of people that will work for him, and that's something money can't buy. He was part of the reason that I decided to run for office myself. His House colleagues are going to come out for him strong, and I think he has a path to victory both in August and November.
Representative Adams, you served with Representative Kurtman.
Right.
You know Nicole Galloway.
Right.
Representative Kurtman certainly is a guy with a track record in the House and can mount a legitimate campaign against him.
Yes, you're right about that, but I think he's getting the second prize. I know he wanted to run for the Senate, and they convinced him not to run it, so I think they made a deal with him. Look, we'll give you something else, and that's what they found out. Well, how about the auditor's race?
Joe, man, did they make a deal with him, or he just see the money train coming from Washington for Josh Hawley?
Well, I think it's probably the latter, a little bit of both. Kurtman's not stupid, so I mean he could see the way things were laying out. Now, a couple of things. I think I agree. He's got a lot of conservative support. The key problem for him is that while he does have some financial background from his years in the General Assembly, it's not the kind of stuff that Galloway will be emphasizing. As a rule, the auditor generally has been somebody who's either a CPA or a lawyer. Tom Schweich, the Republican who knocked off Susan Monty back in 2010, he wasn't an auditor, but he had a whole bunch of experience in fiscal issues. So I think you're going to see some of the more traditional fight over, her saying, well, I've got the financial expertise. He doesn't. But I think on the other hand, he's like the third in a series of candidates who have a military background and who used it well. And so that's going to be interesting.
Let's before we get to that general election matchup, David Wassinger. He is a CPA and an attorney. Obviously can self-fund a race. He reminds me more of Tom Schweich than Paul Kurtman does.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is that Kurtman first is going to have to get past Wassinger, who I've known for a long time. He's a very sharp lawyer. His wife is a very highly respected St. Louis County councilwoman. I think
in the current craze, maybe the most respected member of the county council right now.
Actually, I totally agree. She probably is. So I think that depending on how Wassinger structures the race, and the fact that he put $500,000 of his own money indicates that he's serious. He's not just playing around. So I think Kurtman's going to have to focus a lot on fundraising, because he's only got, at least his last campaign report showed him with under $5,000 in the bank. So he's got a ways to go on that part.
Does this remind you of when Tom Schweich ran? Alan Isett was the budget chairman, well respected amongst conservatives, just got out fundraised in the end and defeated. Plus Republicans, one very prominent one, has said anybody that's ever served in the legislature is terrible and experience is awful. Do you think Kurtman has some issues getting to that general election matchup?
I don't think Kurtman's going to have any trouble positioning himself as an outsider. You can draw similarities to the past, but every race is its own race, and I think we're going to have a primary, and whoever comes out on top will be a solid candidate in November.
Serving in the legislature, do you ever worry you may become like Paul Kurtman, serve for 8 years, and then that's used against you if you run for something else?
It's kind of amazing how times have changed a little bit, where experience used to matter, and then now it's, we need to drain the swamp, and we're all part of that swamp apparently now after just a couple of years. So.
Wendell Bailey once told me when he was a young man, he said, give a young man a chance, and now that he's older, he says experience counts. So I guess it always does. Everything's perspective. Let's talk about an interesting race we all may be talking about for a long time. It's the special election in southeastern Jackson County. Mike Searpoy, the floor leader, your colleague, running. Hillary Shields is running, and Hillary Shields and the Democrats very deftly got another person on the ballot, and Jacob Turk. Have you been over there? You do a lot of help for the party. What's the situation on the ground?
I'm going next Monday. They have a very strong campaign that they've put together. The voters are smart. They see what the Democrats have done. They went out and recruited a third-party candidate to divide the conservative vote. They're not going to be fooled. They're going to vote for the real conservative candidate, Mike Searpoy, and he's going to win in a couple weeks.
If you're in that room, what kind of plan do you draw up to make sure people know that?
You just got to get your message out. They've been doing a really good job at branding this as this is a candidate that's been planted into this race to divide conservatives. We're going to get the message that Mike Searpoy has the longest conservative record of actually delivering on our priorities. He's going to get that message out, and voters are going to know. You
ever think maybe the Democrats find another person that's pretty Republican to run against you and divide it up in a three-way?
Well, I might have had a little primary issue a couple years ago with 4 others running against me, so I'm not. I'm kind of used to the 5-way primaries and 3-way general elections at this point. So,
Joe Mannies, you might remember Margaret Renault. She won this election in a similar 3-way. She was a very good candidate, but it's interesting how the times change and evolve. And is this a sign that Democrats statewide are finally getting a heartbeat again?
It depends who turns out. I mean, as you know, special elections is all about it's low turnout, but it's whether or not your person, your people turn out. So I think people can talk about how the Democrats are coming back or the Republicans are, but it's all about who's got a better ground game. I think all this other stuff is just sideshow. It's who gets their people out.
I wouldn't discount Turk. I mean, he's run before, and he has gotten a large
lot
number of votes in Jackson County. And so he has good name recognition. And I think he may surprise some people, at least the vote total that he gets. I don't think he wins, though.
Sure, but he could spoil the race.
Right.
So we've been on this show, KMOX, different places for, 5 weeks now, talking about, hey, look at the Democrats. They ran a great special election, made the Republicans sweat it out in the 50th. Now again, but the Republicans maybe they're getting tired of being pushed. This was sent to me this week. It's a Shields Turk lining both of them up with Hillary Clinton. What do you think? Do you think any of that sass coming back? It makes for a funner race, though, right?
It does. Races should be fun. They shouldn't be totally acrimonious. It should be fun because it is. You're trying to put forth your position. You're trying to convince people you're the better choice for that job and what kind of job you're going to do.
Joe, man, is this a mixture of Stephen Weber doing a good job, guys like Jeff Jerling kind of being liberated since there's really nobody besides Claire McCaskill? She's inventive. Or is it Donald Trump's in the White House, and when you're out of power, you get more fired up?
Well, I think there's a combination of that. I think, Weber's been doing a good job of traveling around the state trying to get more candidates. I mean, one of the problems for the Democrats in 2016, forgetting all the other stuff, was that there were so many state legislative races that they left vacant. I mean, Republicans didn't even have any opponents. And I think that Weber's trying to do a better job of getting more candidates, getting more people fired up, and that would, the whole intent is to get Claire McCaskill reelected, because it's possible, but I think it's not probable, that she would lose and Nicole Galloway would win.
Really?
I think that Galloway needs a strong McCaskill turnout to help her, because she doesn't have the name recognition.
Representative Christofanelli, I'll put you a cold frosty Anheuser-Busch product on that whichever party wins one will win the other.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be tied to the hip. The top of the ticket's going to drive turnout, and that's going to determine the election.
What do you think?
I think
it also is interesting, Galloway's been the auditor for a while, but she didn't win that race. She's never ran statewide before. My sense is maybe Galloway does a little better, but I think whichever Republican's in there probably runs a good race and maybe goes the way Holly goes.
The resources are going to be there. We have 2 hard campaigners, and I think it's going to be a serious race.
So, man, you were on a call this week, Josh Hawley coming out of the gate. Claire McCaskill is good, but she doesn't give you your staff notes, right? Was it Gav on the first kind of real thing he'd done in the campaign? Yeah,
every candidate has these little problems, but the problem is that for Hawley, this was his first press conference call where he was focusing on an issue. B, I think most of us had high expectations because during 2016 he ran a very sharp, shrewd primary, especially, and then in the general election. So he gets on this call. He's been given prepared notes, It was clear that he was reading some of them, and a lot of the facts were wrong. I mean, he was attacking McCaskill, saying that she was against Trump's blueprint from the get-go, that she wasn't listening. Well, that's not true. Now, whether or not she goes for the tax cut package, she made clear that she does support tax cuts for the middle class, but not for the rich. And she's been doing all these town halls where she's been driving that point home. She's put stuff out on Twitter. He repeats a tweet, but he deletes the words that make her look better. And so all of us on the press call were like, wait a minute, no, she has said this, not that. As I'd mentioned before, I think that a smarter, more prepared candidate of any party, I was thinking Jim Talent while I was on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this would never have happened. I mean, it was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Representative, he can fix those facts, right? But
Listen, this race isn't going to be decided by mainstream media or journalists. It's going to be decided by working Missouri families and who represents their values.
But they want
That's
their candidate to have
obviously-
their facts straight, though, right? I mean, that's not too much.
Josh Hawley's going to get his message out, and he's going to win because he's the one that's going to be able to connect with Missouri voters.
That's a fixable thing, though, right? Getting your facts right, but you got to fix it.
Yeah, and this far out, we got a long ways to go. I mean, people make mistakes early on in a lot of races, and they can come back from a lot worse. So
Joe Adams only
Make them late in the race.
only one candidate been to West Butler County twice in this race. That's Claire McCaskill.
You're right.
I don't think that's by accident either. You know what I mean? No. With the middle left, Representative Roden, who won the week?
Paul Kurtman.
Paul Kurtman. He did get off to a strong start.
He did.
Moved around the state. A lot of people with him.
Mike Searpoy and his team for putting on a strong campaign that's going to win in a couple weeks.
I think it's an interesting thing how they're getting more aggressive. The signs and stuff are funny.
Yeah, it is.
I would remember
Creative.
that now. And I'm just a local media person.
I think Claire McCaskill because A, the Hawley missteps, and B, there's all these pictures floating around of her sitting next to Trump last week at the talk on the tax cuts.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Who won the week?
I think it's Nicole Galloway. She's putting forth a very hard campaign. She's traveling around the state also, and she is connecting with the people.
I'm going to say Mike Kelly and John Hancock of the Hancock and Kelly fame. They won the Bob Hyland Award. I don't know how you could have an award named for anybody more prestigious. I think they won the week, and we hope you'll win the week next week by joining us here on This Week in Missouri Politics. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.